If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I've noticed that about half the people that watch this channel actually aren't subscribed, and it's totally normal. It happens to me too. It's just that YouTube, suggests all these things, things that you like, that you watch, they'll suggest it to your feed, and sometimes the same channel will just keep coming up and you think that you're subscribed, but you're not. Welcome to the other side. I'm your host, John, and I have Holly Rich with me tonight, and we are talking about astral projection. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So, Holly, the reason we're here is because you had some experiences with like astral projection.
And I actually did not know what was happening whenever it was happening to me. So I'm a meditator. I meditate all the time. I had been ever since I was young. So initially what had started was I was just in a lot of pain. I have scoliosis in my neck. So I went into a deep meditation. This meditation was the deepest that I've ever gone, where I actually felt like I was inside my own body, going through nerves, muscle, tissue, ligaments, everything. I was in bone, I was in everything. And then about half an hour after that, it's like all of a sudden my body got very light and I started swaying like I was in a cradle or a hammock. And instead of being afraid, I surrendered and let it happen. And that's kind of when I got sucked up into the air, which I felt if I had opened my eyes and looked down, I would be off my bed, like I'd be in the air, and continued to surrender to the idea because it actually felt very good internally, like I was pain-free. So I let that happen. So at first it was just the hammock and then the rise, but then things got a little chaotic. It started kind of spinning like a gyrosphere, and then, but in all different directions. So if you can imagine, so it's kind of this way. My feet were on the ground. My head was, on the ground. I was just everywhere. And the visuals that I was seeing were quite incredible. So not a whole lot of light was happening. It was kind of dark where I was. Little bit blue, a little bit of green. But my body, what it was doing was creating almost like patterns of golden threads. So it was almost like you see frequencies or mandalas. My body was creating that. And that's what I was. I wasn't a person at that point. I was just almost like a tool. And I kept going with it because I kind of wanted to see where this was going to go. I didn't have anywhere else better to be. So I just kept going, and internally, although typically I'd be very terrified, I kind of got this feeling that I kept getting the word recalibration, healing. So I just kept going with it, allowed it to happen. I didn't time my event, so I'm not too sure how much time had passed. It felt to me like maybe about an hour. So with the meditation, half an hour, the event itself would be an hour. And it wasn't too hard to bring myself out of it. I kind of just thought, especially with all the spinning, I actually got a little bit afraid that I would actually get sick. So I did bring myself out of it. Miraculously, though, whenever I brought myself back down into my bed and finally opened up my eyes, I just felt great. I felt great. It did feel like a healing. I felt much better. That night I slept really great. The pain in my neck was gone, which was great. That's what I was trying to achieve in the first place. That's the whole reason for it. But the next day, that's whenever I started really questioning what that was, because I have never encountered anything like that. I have had a few meditation teachers, and none of them have described an event like that to me. So this was completely new and something that I had never experienced, never heard about. Of course, I was, the next day Googling everything it could possibly be. And I saw anything from Kundalini experiences to vertigo. So it was a very wide range of things that I just couldn't explain. And it seemed like no one else really had an answer. I have tried several times since then. Not as much. I kind of just get to the swaying and a little bit of the spin, but I don't stay in it for an hour like I did before. And it does feel like it's healing. So I do think it's a good thing. I have stumbled across the Astral Projection page on Facebook, and that's kind of where I really found some answers there, because a lot of people have described similar experiences from that. So that's probably what I'm leading to believe it is. But that's also why I'm here as well, because I'm really trying to find answers.
Well, that's very interesting. So when you first experienced this, were you how aware were you that you're outside of your body?
Extremely. So I knew that, like, I didn't feel anything underneath me. Like, I knew that where I was, what I was doing, it was, if someone were to walk into the door, and look at me, I wouldn't think that they could see me. Honestly, I would feel like I was just um, in a just totally different place. But I was very aware that I was in a different place. I was not in my room. I was not in my body. It was in this strange, unique place full of healing and spinning.
But you didn't experience any fear at the time. You just sort of went and let go and went with it, right?
That's the weird part, yes. Because typically I'm a person that doesn't enjoy spinning that much. But just something in my body just told me that just to let go, just let it happen. Because I do have neck problems. Healing has always been like my journey. I'm always trying to go towards where I can heal myself. So I felt like this was my body's way of telling me you're on the right path. This is a healing journey. This is part of the journey. Continue on with it. However, afterwards, I kind of started second guessing myself. So that's why I'm seeking those answers again, because I feel like I should really explore this more.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And so when this was happening, so no fear, you just went with it. And at any point, like right before exiting, because you said you rose, kind of like rose out of your body, right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you never felt any like descending or going down through your bed and then rising or anything like that. It was just straight up.
No descent, no. The only descent that I felt was internal. So it felt like, you know how you're in your mind and you picture things? I was no longer in the mind. I was literally exploring the inside of my body. That would be the only descent that I had. It wasn't in my head anymore. It was more just in the body. And I think maybe that might have been key, where it kind of took the fear away, because I didn't have that fear in my mind always. Oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
It just felt natural at the time.
I'm sure it helped a lot, and probably as you know, what got you there was all the meditation that you had been doing prior to this event, because they're essentially the same thing in the beginning. Like to get there, you have to know how to meditate, control your breathing, things like that, which I'm sure you're aware of by now. I find it interesting because when it first happened to me, it's sort of a similar situation as yours, what you're describing. I'm curious, what if you remember what's happening to you? I mean, if it's personal, we don't have to get into it here, but do you remember generally what you were going through, what was happening in your life at the time, even the smallest details right before this first time it occurred, the experience occurred?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it at all. So like I said, it was in 2020, so it was peak pandemic. I was actually one of the essential workers. Um, but because I was essential and there's so few of us, I was worked very hard. So I was long hours at work. I have a family, so it was a lot going on. However, because I knew there was a lot going on, I took extreme good care of my body at the time. So I was eating very clean. I was getting my exercise. I was doing a lot of dry brushing to try and stimulate my, because I kind of felt like there was some uh, like numb parts of my body. So I was trying to stimulate the nerves in there again. So I was really stimulating my body, really getting it on track. So I would say I'd be the healthiest that I ever was. However, I still was feeling well, at work, I would kind of ignore and just go into work mode. So I would be doing heavy lifting. So that did put a lot of strain on my shoulders and my neck. And so by the end of the day, when I would come home, that's what I would do. I just really focus on. So every day I was meditating every day. So my body was, like I would say, very aware of sensations, and I was in control, I would say.
Did you have any issues in terms of like, so you had a different vantage point when it happened. You were suddenly sort of bird's eye view level, right? When it
Except
happened.
I never looked down. I never looked down. I felt that if I looked down or even thought about looking down, I would lose it. So I just kept with it.
It's good that you did because had you looked down, you would have instantly woken up if you saw your body. That would have been
There
over.
you go.
Yeah. And so up there, was there any ever a time when you tried to move or change your focus or be in a different place or anything like that?
No, I was just exploring to see what was going to happen. Like I said, I've never experienced it before, so I didn't want to try and control anything.
Mhm. Did you experience any type of body paralysis prior to this happening?
Um, I might have had one bout of sleep paralysis.
Hmm.
There was a night that I had a nightmare, and I did wake up. So this would have been, I would say, might have been after though. And I woke up and I actually had a dream that I had someone standing over me. And whenever I woke up, the person was still there, like the outline of them. And I remember blinking my eyes a couple times or trying to. I was like, oh, no. And then it went away. It dissipated. It was more like a foggy shadow almost. Like I couldn't make out any facial features, but that was just once. And I believe it was afterwards. And as far as I was concerned, it was just a nightmare. But I had never had a sleep paralysis dream before. I have heard of them, but
Hmm.
I had never experienced, and I have never experienced one since.
When you popped out of your body, did you have any sort of like what often happens with this didn't happen with my first one either, so if it didn't with you, I wouldn't be that surprised. But sometimes we'll hear a lot of noises, almost like an airplane engine. It's like really, really, really loud, but it's not, it doesn't penetrate to the point where it's hurting and there's no pain because it's happening to your consciousness, not to your actual physical body, right? So did you have anything similar to that, or was it just quiet time and lifting out of the bed
No,
kind
I would say there was noise. But it kind of just felt like I was on a Ferris wheel or like an area where I would feel the wind swooshing. Like I could feel, like I felt like I was being whipped, like turned around. It was intense. So anything that accompanied that, I felt it. So I did feel, even gravity. I've heard the wind kind of whooshing around, but it wasn't an awful sound like at all. It was kind of nice. It wasn't a scary sound, but I definitely felt like a whooshing. And in fact, now that I'm thinking back to it as well, I do remember when I was doing the hammock thing. I remember seeing almost like ring drops coming towards my face, and it was like a womp 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 womp. I do remember that now.
I think in your case, and like I said, I'm not an expert, but it sounds to me like you're doing this to heal and it's
Mhm.
working. So if it's healing you in any way, I would just keep doing it. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I would love to hear because I
Very
haven't heard
similar.
many stories like mine.
So it's similar. Like, so what happened was I came home. I'd never astral projected. I didn't even meditate, and I had no clue. Oh, wait, no, I had meditated. I wasn't meditating regularly, but I had meditated a couple years before, like a phase where I was doing this with some bandmates. But anyways, so at the time I was not meditating. I was pretty tired, like you kind of felt a little tired, not sick, but off a little bit. And I went to bed, not to sleep, just to kind of crash for a little bit, just lie on my bed. And nobody was home except my sister, and I think my parents were on vacation. So what happened with me was, as I was lying there, my body started to fall into like a sleep paralysis type of thing. And of course, I had no idea, what that was. I know now, but I had no idea at the time what was going on. It was a little scary because I'm like, wow, now I can't feel my legs, and then I couldn't
Hmm.
feel my midsection, and then I started to feel, tell me if this happened to you too, sort of started to feel like pressure on my chest, but none of this was ever painful or uncomfortable. It was weird because I didn't know what was happening. And the pressure felt like it was getting stronger, but there was no pain. So it was kind of weird.
Hmm.
And then after that, I started to try to vocalize to my sister and wake myself up or whatever. I just tried to vocalize and nothing was coming out. And I could hear nothing was coming out because I was fully awake. Obviously, it was awake. My body was out of commission, My voice was out of commission, but I could hear everything I was trying to say, but nothing was coming out, and it was really frustrating. But then the next thing I know, I didn't float up like you did the first time. The next thing I knew, I was on my floor, looking down a long hallway. So the bed was now behind me where my body was. I didn't know this at the time. I thought I was just on the floor. And it was really, for me, it was really difficult to move. I had a difficult time getting down the hallway and trying to get to where my sister was, where she was talking in my mom's room, my parents' room, to one of her friends on the phone. Back in the day, we used to do that. And I finally get there. Felt like I was kind of like going through quicksand. It was really hard. And I finally got there, got around the corner. I see my sister way down, 'cause the room was long and big, and I could see her at the end of the room talking on the phone, lying down on the bed. And again, I'm trying to call out to her and everything, realizing that she can't hear me. And at this point, like you, I'm starting to realize that I don't think anyone can hear me or see me. But I still didn't think OBE, like out of body experience. I didn't know what those were. I didn't even know those existed. And so I listened to her conversation for a little bit, and then the next thing I knew, I was back in my bed, waking up,
Hmm.
still kind of sleep paralyzed, but gradually coming out of it until I was able to move and go try to validate things with my sister. And that was the end of that. And I sort of just wrote the whole thing off and repressed it, I guess, until many months later when I heard a tail end of an Oprah Winfrey show. They were talking about all these details that were so similar and aligning with what I went through. And then it was all coming back to me, and I'm like, oh shit, wow, astral projection. I don't even know if they said that. I think they just said out of body experience. I don't remember. But it's what makes me laugh now is that even after that, I still didn't believe that's what happened to me. You know, like he every detail was exactly like what I went through, and I still didn't think, oh, I had an out of body experience. It was weird. I could not
Mhm.
get myself to admit that. Weird, eh?
Well, it's a weird experience, and you kind of question yourself because um, I don't know about where you're from, but where we're not where I'm from. Those kinds of things are considered kooky, and it's kind of like delusional, and it's made up. So, um, especially if you were younger, I was a little bit older, and I had some interesting meditation experiences, but nothing like that. But even then, I was still, even though I was well into the meditation world and felt comfortable doing it and have had unique experiences, nothing that brought me out of my body, though. It was always like internal, or I would just see things. But this felt completely different. But I understand how it's easy to kind of just second guess yourself or think you're dreaming. But there comes a time where you're just like, that was just too intense to be a dream. It was just too intense to be anything other than what it was. And the fact that you could kind of just wake up and you were just right where you were, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if I actually had maybe thought of my body or something at the time, and that's what got me back. I don't remember. It's it's a mystery, but I went years after that, not even thinking about it until I started doing meditation again, and then I somehow rediscovered or discovered astral projection on YouTube. Funny enough,
Hmm.
and then I went down that whole rabbit hole and started thinking I got to do this. But funny enough, I thought, oh, this will be so easy because I've already done it. I can do this. I can do this again.
Mhm.
But it took a long time. Like it took, I don't remember how long even, but a long time, like more than 6 months for sure, of trying like almost every night, like every other night at least. And then finally, when I kind of not gave up, but stopped trying so hard, that's when, boop, it happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like everything.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So I have a sort of methodology of what I use now to astral project, and I have my reasons for doing it, which seems to you do as well. But you're not doing it right now actively, right?
No, because I wasn't too sure. And it's very easy for me to get back into it. I know I could because there are times where I could feel it and I kind of go, no, because I want to learn more first.
Okay.
Um, but yes, I have a method. Yeah. So for me, it always starts with laying down. I'm always going to be laying down. and usually in the dark. I don't have a blanket on me. That was another thing too. I just let myself kind of just be on the bed, just I was clothed, but just on the bed, no blanket, no socks. That was another thing too. Like I just felt I just wanted to feel like I was completely free, and comfortable. And then I actually did physical movements. So I started with I kind of just so I focused on my hips and kind of just wiggled those, and then I would kind of work that energy up the spine. That's how I kind of got my spine warmed up, and so it wasn't in as much pain. And then I kind of just told my body, take me to where the pain is. So I brought myself to where the pain was, and it kind of just like I said, that's what kind of like sucked me in. Like I kind of went from the head, and then I was in the base of my neck, and I was still moving though. I was kind of just moving back and forth, and then I kind of imagine like flossing, or like you're following a pathway almost. So I'd follow a pathway up and down, and then it kind of like flossed my body where it was like painful until it felt good. And that was the thing I always focus on, until it felt good. And if it hurt when I was entering the painful part, I would back up, and I would only progress further until I felt no pain. And then, so once my body was pain free, that's whenever it kind of just started. It's like my body said, okay, pain's gone. Let's get you fixed now. Cause I know that I have scoliosis. I know that your body wants to be healthy. So I just kind of felt like my body I wish I got like an x-ray or something done because I felt like it was like, okay, let's fix your neck. And that's why I kind of let it happen as well too, because I wanted to see if my neck would get straighter, honestly. But I just kind of let it happen. And I didn't think about what was happening. That was one of the things. Don't think about what's happening. Just let it happen. Because it just kind of feels like you're just energy. That's how I pictured it. I was just energy, and I was embodying the energy that I wanted to see. So that's where I'm kind of hesitant to call it astral projection, just because I don't know. But that was my method for it. So completely pain-free body, going inward, and then it was just let go and see what happens.
Yeah,
It's hard to explain. It's too like I could never teach it to somebody, I don't think, unless I was doing it. Like unless someone was watching me, I think that would be the only way. But to try and
hard to
just
watch
explain it,
somebody. Yeah, though.
to
Now they're
just,
still lying down, and now they're lying down. Now they seem
but
further away, but
I
they're
feel
still lying down.
I think I could talk through it though. I really do. I think I could talk through it. Maybe once I got up, maybe not so much. Hard to say. Like I said,
Yeah.
I haven't been
I couldn't do that. That's amazing. If you could do that.
I know. I wish I think I'm gonna explore it more and
That's
just see what
cool.
I
Yeah.
can do, what I can't
See how
do. Because
far you can get before you're like lost into the projection. That'd be so cool. Like even videotape
yeah,
yourself, maybe. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool.
I think that's the
Yeah.
way to go.
So the way I do it is basically similar to you. I lie down and it's usually at night also. I find it's easier. Everyone to each their own. I definitely do it at night most of the time, majority. With my arms usually parallel to my body. I also light incense and I sometimes, not anymore, but in the beginning I would use binaural beats. So if you're not familiar with that, it's just a certain frequency of beats, type of music that really can help you get into that phase that you need to in order to leave your body. I don't use it anymore, but I did in the beginning, and I found it very helpful. And the most important thing to me that two things, two most important things about making this work for you, if this is what you want to do. I was going to go into this thing about intention, but let's talk about breathing. So, breathing is super, super important. Breathing in through your nose, holding it for 4 seconds, exhaling through your mouth really, really slowly, and trying not to focus on really anything, but maybe that. The second thing I'm going to say it, and I think this is really how I was able to do it successfully that first time after the involuntary time, and that's not trying. It's just not trying so hard. I think when I kind of let it go,
Hmm.
that's when I was able to do it. I was trying so hard for so many months, and it wasn't working, and it was getting frustrating. It would get pretty far too. It'd get to the vibrational stage, where I felt like my entire house was vibrating. Um, and the loudness, that crazy, well, for me, it was like an airplane engine, basically. It was really, 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 really loud. It sounded like it was right next to my ear. And then, yeah, eventually it would get into this carrier wave and off into the projection. But I think those are the two most important things: is the breathing and letting go of trying so hard, So when I first did it, and then so what happened with me was I would gradually get into this body sleep paralysis. I kind of got addicted to it because it felt so good. When you have this, you don't feel your body at all. There's no tightness, or you're completely relaxed. There's different ways of getting to that point, which maybe I'll get into later. But once that happens to you, it feels almost like you're already out of your body because you pretty much feel like you're floating. You don't feel your body at all. So then, yeah, so I would get to that state. I would get to the vibrational state. I would get to this really loud noise and stuff, and then I would just kind of like roll over, and I was out. But when I rolled over, I was back in bed again, and I thought, oh crap, it didn't work, and now I'm awake. Ugh. But then I started hearing different things, smelling different things, and feeling different things until I realized I'm not where I was when I started this. And I ended up being where I wanted to be, which was in my mother's basement in Ottawa. For those not from Canada, I live in Montreal. This is about a 2-hour drive from here. I ended up in the basement. I could hear the grandfather clock that I grew up with as a child, not in Ottawa, but that's where it was now at the time. And I could hear that. And I thought, man, I did it, And now I have to like really focus on not getting too excited, because I don't know if you know this, but if you get too excited, you can easily wake yourself up, and then it's
Right.
it's all over again. Don't think about your body. Don't get too excited, and you'll stay in it. So then once I realized that was happening, I thought, okay, all right, now I could just think anything and be there, do it, or be it. So I didn't go too far. I just thought kitchen, and I was in the kitchen. And then after that, I was back on my bed at home. I woke myself up somehow. I don't know how. But it was pretty cool. It happened that first time. It was very low level, low frequency, low vibrational, astral projection on
Hmm.
Earth, just a few hours away. But once I really fully realized the trick not to try too hard, boom, every time I would go and I would do something different every time. So that's kind of my story. Yeah.
So is that why you were going to talk about intention, because that's because where you wanted to go?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I tried so many different methods, so many different, tactics. Nothing was working. I would always have an intention of where I wanted to go and why I wanted to astral project
Okay.
at that moment, and then I would let that go entirely, and that's basically when it actually worked. For me, the stages are be as comfortable as you possibly can. Not everybody lies down doing this like us. I find it the most comfortable way of doing it. So I
Hmm.
lie down. I do the breathing like I explained earlier. Maybe 6 to 8 breaths, pretty intense breaths. And then I could slowly start to feel my body getting number and number and going into sleep paralysis. And then I just focus on my breath, breathing normally. After that, I usually get into a kind of vibrational stage or phase. But that's the time when you got to go. You got to get out of your body. And there's a couple different methods for doing that. I'm going to explain them right now. One is the one I already explained, which is just rolling out of the bed, like you're thinking of rolling out of the bed. Try to keep most of your focus. Somebody wrote about this on Facebook too, and I was like, oh yes, that's it. To keep, your focus towards your third eye as you're doing all this, just that right in between your eyeballs and sort of the base of your forehead. And yeah, so you want to lie down. Once you get into that vibrational stage, you exit by either rolling out, or there's another one that worked for me, which was a rope. And the way you do it as you visualize a rope just, dangling down from your ceiling. I usually kind of just visualize it rolling slowly down until it's really close to me. And then I visualize grabbing the rope and slowly climbing up the rope until I'm out of my body. That's happened for me a couple times. It worked. And then after that, I started doing the rollout method. Pray for love and light before doing an astral projection or attempting to do one. Pray to your guides, pray to whoever you want to, that you'll be surrounded by love, surrounded by light, and nothing dark can get in. I do that
Right.
every single time. It's worked for me, so
Yeah.
I suggest that.
'Cause I had not anticipated me going on a journey at all. So I had not prepared in any way, shape, or form for that. But I think with the knowledge that I was entering my meditation for the point of healing, I think maybe that is something similar. Healing's healing, right? It's a positive thing. It's, the best higher version of yourself.
Mhm.
Total health, right? So I guess subconsciously, phew, I did that. But I have heard many stories about the more negative realms, I guess,
Well, let's talk
people.
about that because, the thing is, there are some realms that are not quite as inviting and pleasant as others. You can stay away from those. If you find yourself in one of those, you can easily get out of it just by
Mhm.
thinking it. If and remember, this is really important. Remember, you are not in your physical state. You're purely consciousness. Nothing can hurt you. Maybe emotionally, maybe you can get scared, but you will never physically be hurt or die in or not be able to get back to your body. And sometimes what happens when you're starting astral projection is you might prematurely try to exit your body and then now you got to do it all over again another night. So one really good way, a good trick, a good what do they call that? Like anyway, a trick
Mhm.
is to put a blanket, just a light blanket, over your body, especially over your arms. Because if you lift up your arm thinking you're like, might be out of body and that blanket's not moving,
Mm.
you're good. It's the right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would actually be excellent for, yeah, especially for people starting out, right? Not knowing, am I out? Am I in? Because it's kind
Mhm.
of incredible that that you've been to places like your parents' house and just down the hall. I didn't travel anywhere in my house. I was somewhere far away.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know where I was.
Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting too.
but yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm. It's a good tip.
The only thing I would, I guess, discourage is once you start getting to do this, and the same thing with lucid dreaming, try not to do it too often. Like every night is probably not a good idea because, especially if you're lucid dreaming, because you can easily blur the line between that and your actual reality,
Okay.
that you're in now, which you don't want to do.
No,
So, yeah.
I like her.
It's been such a joy to speak with you, Holly. I'm really glad
Thank you. My
we
pleasure.
connected. And I hope that, if you have any more experiences, you'll let me know and you'll come back on the show and tell us about it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Blessings.
Blessings to you too. Take care.